Yesterday, OpenAI shipped its most capable model yet to a few 100 million people, and most of them will never actually get to use it. That's the interesting part. Not that a new model exists. New models exist every week now. The interesting part is who it actually reaches and who it doesn't. This is depth and signal. 4 models shipped in the last 48 hours. Venture capital did something it has never done before, and one quiet research result may matter more than any of the launches. So let's do the useful thing. Let's separate the machinery from the noise. Here's what actually mattered this cycle and what didn't. Start with the big one. On July 9th, OpenAI moved its GPT-5.6 family to general availability. 3 variants, codenamed Sol, Terra, and Luna. And it began rolling them out across ChatGPT, Codex, and the API. Most coverage wants to talk about benchmarks. Faster, more intelligent, more work per dollar. Fine, maybe. But those are OpenAI's numbers on evals OpenAI chose, and the independent results are still thin. So for the moment, put the leaderboard aside. The thing that actually changed is reach. But here's what reach really looks like, and this is the part the launch day threads skipped. It is not one switch flipping for everybody. Access is stratified. On ChatGPT, the flagship, Sol only shows up on paid plans, and only when you turn the effort setting up to medium or higher. Free users get the smaller Terra model, and only inside ChatGPT Work and Codex. Microsoft, separately, made GPT-5.6 the preferred model in 365 Copilot. So, hundreds of millions of people can use it is true. But which version, on which plan, at which setting, is a patchwork. The best model here is not a default anyone lands on. It is something you have to know to reach for. And that patchwork is the story. The ordinary public experience of AI is tilting toward GPT 5.6, but sorted by what you pay and what you know to click. Your parents get a quietly different, smaller model than the one the benchmarks are bragging about. And if you build on the API, this is where the boring details become important. There is a new family underneath your product now, priced and tiered by capability. And the cheapest tier is genuinely cheap. Prompts tuned for the old models may drift, tone may drift, refusals may change, formatting may change. The small stuff is often where products break. One more detail needs a careful hand. OpenAI ran GPT 5.6 through an unusually long, gated preview before this launch, and there is reporting that a U.S. government review was part of the runway. We are flagging that, not treating it as settled. Because if frontier model releases are now going through federal sign-off, that is its own story. But first, confirm the mechanism. So the short version is this. The capability may or may not be a leap. The reach is real, but it is uneven. And the version most people actually touch is not the one on the benchmark charts. Watch for independent evals over the next week. That's when we find out whether Sol, Terra, and Luna are as good as the launch says. Now, while everyone was watching OpenAI, the more consequential number may have been sitting on a pricing page. At the end of June, Anthropic's Sonnet 5 arrived at $2 in, $10 out per million tokens, with near Opus-class performance, at least by Anthropic's description. And this week, xAI took Grok 4.5 public at $2 in, $6 out, pitched as a cheap, cursor-trained coding model. Think about what that means. A year ago, quality anywhere near this cost a multiple of that. So the signal under the launches is not simply new model. It is that frontier-adjacent capability is becoming a commodity. When two labs price quality this good, this low, within a couple of weeks of each other, the contest is moved. It is less who is the smartest and more who is cheap enough and good enough at the same time. For builders, that changes the arithmetic. Build versus buy, margins, what you can afford to automate, where your actual differentiation has to live. And here's the uncomfortable answer. Probably not in the model. Two cautions. First, these are introductory prices. Sonnet 5's runs through August 31st, and a price with an expiry date is not a promise. It is a land grab. Second, near opus is a vendor claim on evals the vendor chose. So watch September, watch whether these prices stick, and watch whether OpenAI or Google answers. Now we get to the story I think is the most important one, and naturally, it got the least attention. The same week the labs were waving benchmark wins around, the research quietly poked a hole in the ritual. Start with a paper making a narrow, sharp claim. You cannot read a model's real-world behavior off its benchmark scores. How a model does in the lab on a fixed test under evaluation conditions does not reliably tell you how it behaves once it is deployed in a real product in front of real people. The evaluation and the deployment are just different things, and the gap between them is not something you close by picking a better single number. Now set a second result next to it. It looked at more than 200,000 simulated multi-turn conversations. Top models dropped about 39% in quality compared with single-turn use. They anchor on an early assumption. Then, even when you correct them, they keep holding the first shape of the answer underneath. On the surface, they agree. Under the hood, they do not fully move. They don't drift off gradually. They commit early, and then they can't recover. Put those together, and you get the thesis of this channel. A model that wins a benchmark may not win in your product. Leaderboards are single-turn, in-lab, and increasingly optimized for. Your users are multi-turn, messy, impatient, and real. Now, be fair to the evidence. That 39% is an average over specific tasks and specific models. It is not a law of physics. But the direction is the point. When the next launch leads with a benchmark, this is the little asterisk you should keep in your head. Let's talk about money, because this number is hard to believe. U.S. venture funding hit $412 billion in the first half of 2026. That alone is up about 30% over all of last year. But the strange part is the concentration. AI startups took 86% of it, $355 billion. Of the 7 separate billion-dollar-plus rounds in the second quarter, 5 were AI companies. In other words, 86 cents of every venture dollar went onto one bet. Now, that number says two things at once. It says conviction, and it says fragility. If nearly all the money is pointed at one theme, then there is not much left for anything outside that theme. And there is not much cushion if the theme wobbles. The skeptic's note is important here. AI startup is a slippery label. A company can wear that label because it is central to the product or because it is useful for fundraising. A handful of mega rounds can bend the whole chart, and a strong 6 months is not the same thing as a strong year. So watch the other 14%. Watch what does not get funded, and watch for the first down rounds among companies that raised at the peak. Now, regulation. For 2 years, AI regulation was mostly a conversation. This cycle, it became homework with a deadline. The EU AI Act's obligations for general-purpose AI models are now in force, and the bigger one, the rules for high-risk systems, lands on August 2nd, just weeks away. Transparency, documentation, risk classification, these are becoming legal requirements, not slide deck virtues. And in the US, an executive order on advanced AI innovation and security is steering federal agencies toward AI-hardened defenses and a voluntary framework for pre-release access to, in their words, covered frontier models. Why should you care? Because if you ship AI into the EU or into US federal contexts, this is not an abstract policy debate anymore. It is a checklist. Document your system. Classify its risk. Disclose what you have to disclose. But keep the skeptic's eye open. Enforce is not the same thing as enforced. The real test is the first enforcement action, and we have not seen it yet. And the US order is largely voluntary. Direction setting, not binding on the whole industry. So the thing to watch is the gap between what is written down and what actually happens. 3 quick ones before we close. Google DeepMind pushed Gemini 3.5 Pro to July 17th and says it threw out the old architecture to rebuild from the ground up. 2 million token context. A new deep think reasoning layer. That is a delay framed as an architecture bet, not a stumble. It lands next cycle, and it may well be the lead. And Anthropic brought Fable 5 back worldwide on July 1st, after US export controls were lifted. Though its less restricted sibling, Mythos 5, came back only for vetted US organizations. The quiet lesson is simple. Which models you can use is now shaped by trade policy as much as engineering. Access can flip with a signature. So here is the through line once you line the stories up. At the top of the stack, the frontier is racing and getting cheaper. A new flagship rolling out. A price war. Capability commoditizing by the week. Underneath it, the hard problems did not move nearly as fast. Benchmark scores don't predict real behavior. Quality drops in real conversations. 86% of the capital is riding on one theme. Rules exist on paper, but enforcement is still mostly future tense. That is the pattern the headlines hide. Capability is compounding quickly. Trust, that it works, that we can measure it, that anyone is accountable for it, is lagging. The gap between those two curves is the most important thing in AI right now, and almost nobody is pricing it in. Next cycle. Gemini 3.5 Pro and the first independent evals of GPT-5.6. If this cut through the noise for you, subscribe. That's the whole job here. See you in 2 days.